The city of Greenville in the state of South Carolina was a magical place on Christmas Eve. The streets were decorated with lights and ornaments, and the air was filled with music and joy. The city was small and peaceful, with a population of about 60,000 inhabitants. The people were friendly and hospitable, always willing to help others. The weather on Christmas Eve was cold and damp, with temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius. People walked the streets with coats and hats to protect themselves from the cold. The city's shopping center was the center of attention. The stores were filled with people buying gifts for their loved ones. The hallways were lit and decorated with Christmas trees and snowmen. Among the crowd was a young man named Lucas. He was a 20-year-old, tall and slim, with brown hair and green eyes. He was a university student and worked as a waiter in a restaurant. Lucas had a girlfriend named Camila, also 20 years old, studying medicine. She was a beautiful and intelligent young woman with black hair and brown eyes. Lucas and Camila had been dating for a year and a half. They were deeply in love and planned to get married in the future. He was excited to buy a Christmas present for Camila. He wanted it to be a special gift that would show how much he loved her. He had thought about buying jewelry but wasn't sure what type of jewelry would be ideal. He had also considered buying a dress but didn't know Camila's size. Lucas was so engrossed in his search for the perfect gift that he didn't realize everyone had already left the shopping center. Desperate, he began to explore the deserted shopping center in search of an exit. The lights flickered dimly, highlighting mannequins dressed in Christmas costumes, now eerie in the dim light. As he walked through the deserted corridors, his footsteps echoed, intensifying the feeling of isolation. While trying to find an exit, Lucas noticed a faint glow coming from a remote area of the shopping center. Curious and hopeful, he headed towards the light, hoping to find an emergency exit. However, what he found was something he could never have imagined. Upon reaching the location, he found a room adorned with Christmas ornaments, illuminated only by candles. In the center of the room, seated on an improvised throne, was a strangely horrifying Santa Claus. His disheveled beard partially hid a wrinkled and pale face, and his eyes, instead of shining with joy, emitted a disturbing light. Lucas felt a shiver down his spine as Santa Claus, with a hoarse and whispering voice, said,
"Welcome, young man. You are here for the special Christmas celebration."
Lucas's heart raced, but he couldn't move. Santa Claus continued to talk about an ancient tradition, a secret celebration that took place in the shopping center every Christmas Eve. The mannequins, once a note, came to life during this festivity, but not in a friendly way. As Santa Claus spoke, the mannequins began to move, their lifeless expressions transforming into twisted smiles. Lucas, caught between horror and disbelief, witnessed a macabre dance of the mannequins around the sinister Santa Claus. Desperate to escape this terrifying sight, Lucas retreated slowly, but Santa Claus stopped him with a piercing gaze.
"You are our special guest. You cannot leave the party now,"
he said as the mannequins advanced towards Lucas. With a heart pounding with fear, Lucas couldn't move. His eyes were fixed on the mannequins, who were now approaching him. They were tall and muscular, with bright red eyes and sharp teeth. Lucas knew he had to do something, but he was paralyzed with fear. Then he started screaming and decided to run through the dark corridors, the macabre sounds chasing him. Upon finding an emergency exit, he grabbed the handle and turned it, but the door was locked. He tried to open the door, but without success. Lucas was desperate. He knew he couldn't stay in the shopping center, but he couldn't find an exit. He looked around, searching for a place to hide, but there was nothing. Suddenly, he heard a noise behind him. He turned around and saw Santa Claus approaching him with a sinister smile on his face, his eyes glowing like fire. Lucas ran further away, lost and unable to find an exit. After running so much, he found himself tired and exhausted. Looking around, he realized he was in a less illuminated and less decorated corridor, away from the disturbing sight of the room where the macabre celebration was still taking place. It was then that, by luck or fate, his eyes focused on a second emergency exit. Lucas ran towards the door, his legs heavy and trembling. Behind him, the sinister Santa Claus seemed to gain speed, and the mannequins, now more numerous, advanced like a silent horde. Upon reaching the door, Lucas turned the handle in desperation, fearing it might be locked. The door gave way, revealing a dark and deserted corridor outside. Lucas crossed the door and closed it quickly, feeling momentary relief. The sound of the macabre party was muffled, but he knew he couldn't stand still. He was still not safe. As he continued his escape through the empty corridors of the shopping center, Lucas felt the sinister presence persisting behind him. Every corner seemed to bring the imminent threat of being caught by the mannequins. Finally, after a desperate run, Lucas found the main exit of the shopping center. The cold light of the street welcomed him, dissipating the claustrophobic darkness inside the shopping center. He gasped and looked back, hoping not to see the mannequins and the sinister Santa Claus emerging from the shadows. Lucas walked through the cold night, still feeling the weight of fear on his shoulders. What he had experienced seemed like a surreal nightmare, but the images of the macabre celebration would remain with him forever, a disturbing reminder of the Christmas Eve that almost became his last night.